Welcome back to the True Crime Real Estate Podcast, where the listings are real and the comps are terrifying. I'm your host, Adam Ashba, and we're going to be staying in the state of Colorado. We're going to be leaving Boulder, where the John Benet Ramsey podcast that we did last week, and we're going to Frederick, Colorado. It's a quiet, newer subdivision, manicured lawns, beige siding, and HOA-approved mailboxes. It's one of the most disturbing family annihilation cases in modern American history. We're talking about the true story of the Chris Watts murder house. So let's talk about Frederick, Colorado. Well, Frederick, Colorado is about 35 minutes north of Denver. Actually has pretty good schools. This is an area that you would really look at buying, settling down with a nice couple and their nice 2 kids. So let's set the scene for the house. It's a picture-perfect HOA neighborhood. The schools are great, rated anywhere from 7 to 8 out of 10 on Zillow, which is pretty good. 2825 Saratoga Trail is the house that we're going to be talking about. It was built in 2013, so this is the newest of the homes that we've talked about on this podcast. It's around 4,000 square feet. It has 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Beautiful home, vinyl siding, stone accents, open floor plan because of newer classic mid 2010 suburban dream home. It's great. The neighborhood's, it's a family dream. It's a new build construction, neighbors, kids riding their bikes in the neighborhood. What makes this so disturbing is what happened. Chris Watts lived there with his wife, Shanann. It's not Shannon, it's Shanann. Their 2 daughters, Bella, age 4, and Celeste, or CC, age 3. Shanann was active on social media. She documented everything in her life, health struggles, business ventures, things like that. But behind closed doors, their marriage was collapsing. Financial stress, there was infidelity, just perfect recipe for disaster on every Dateline video that I've ever seen. So instead of confronting it or even walking away from the marriage, Chris Watts decided to take a completely different path that would literally shock the entire country. So let's talk about the crime itself. In the early mornings of August 13th, 2018, Chris murdered his pregnant wife as she returned home from a business trip. She was 15 weeks pregnant. Not only that, he did the unthinkable and murdered his 2 young daughters. He loaded their bodies up in his work truck and he drove to an oil site that was owned by his employer, where he buried Shanann and put Bella in these 2 separate oil tanks. It's really hard to discuss because I have 3 daughters and I can't imagine what's going through your mind to think that would be even a remote possibility. Long story short, the lies and interrogation kicks in. Shanann and the girls obviously were reported missing by Chris, who actually was the guilty party. And he went on camera. He was standing on his front porch with a lot of people have saw that video, just arms crossed, just begging for his family to return home. And then soon he did confess. He got life sentences without the possibility of parole. Let's talk about the house. Whatever happened to the house? The property sat vacant from 2018 to 2021. No showings, no open houses. It just sat empty. No one lived there. There was no renters. There was no showings. And it became that house in the neighborhoods where the blinds were closed, had the sad lawn, and neighbors pretended just like it never even happened. The home went into foreclosures. Shanann's parents didn't want the house for obvious reasons, and Chris was in prison. The mortgage went unpaid. The fees got racked up. And the bank eventually foreclosed on the property. In 2022, the house was sold. And the house sold for $600,000, which was well below market value for obvious reasons. It was a distressed property. And then because in 2022, per Zillow, the house was valued at over $800,000. Now, the new owners were a private family. They weren't investors, or they weren't anyone trying to make a museum or try to flip the property. They reportedly planned to renovate and intended to live there, which they did. The house sold again in 2024 for $650,000 October 17th of 2024. And I think looking at the pictures on the MLS was really sad because this is another family that had 2 daughters, which is so uncanny. So just some closing thoughts. The Chris Watts house isn't haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by reality. And it's just a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. I hope you enjoy this episode of the True Crime Real Estate Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review. And join us next week when we explore another property where the past refuses to stay buried.